What's the secret of Top Gear's success? I just say a massive budget.
I'm taking hits! I'm taking a lot of hits!
The notion that I'm a sex symbol is, I'm afraid, laughable.
Did you shrink the man in the car behind? Did you shrink that man, Gypsies?
They just said global warming, didn't they? Look at their faces.
They're horrified. He's Top Gear's top dog, one of the most recognised television stars in the world. But Jeremy Clarkson is refreshingly down to earth, especially when he's nursing a rock star hangover.
Slightly don't know what time of day it is, but yes.
I'm told you had a big night last night.
Yes. There's no other way of describing it. Massive.
What on earth did you do to yourself?
Well, we played beach cricket with AC/DC, and is it Mark Nicholas, the cricket commentator, was actually commentating. So Top Gear versus AC/DC with a proper cricket commentator was a good night.
Now see, that's when you know you've made it, when you get to play beach cricket with AC/DC.
I know. Yes. Kept looking up thinking, that's not real, is it? But it was.
The Top Gear team are here for their live show, which is about to wow Australian audiences. It's a chaotic mix of sexy cars, crazy stunts, and of course lots of laughs. What have you got in store for us with this show?
The live show, well, everything blows up. And there's a lot of cars, obviously. The Stig will drive upside down, burning rally cars. I'll be killed. We'll try to rein James's boredom in. So it's much the same as it is on TV, only live.
Your job, I think you'd have to say, is probably every bloke's fantasy. Is it what you dreamed of doing when you were a little boy?
No. I've never had an ambition, ever. I don't think ambitions are a good idea. Because if you have an ambition, you either achieve it, in which case, so what, or you don't, in which case you live a life of misery. So it's best never to have an ambition and just take every day as it comes. I think that's probably the best. And then look where you end up, in Australia.
So did you never want to be anything when you were a little kid?
I quite wanted to be an astronaut or king or a rock star, and none of those things were actually ever going to happen.
There's probably a little bit of astronaut and rock star in what you're doing now, though, do you think?
It's fantastic, it really is. I can't tell you what it's like to be utterly talentless, but on a rock tour.
Every morning, I come out of the house, I say to myself, it's going to be okay. There's going to be no traffic.
Back in 1988, Jeremy Clarkson was a fresh-faced presenter on a little BBC show called Top Gear. Little did he know the phenomenon it would become. When did the rev head thing bite with you?
It never did, really. When I was at journalism college, and one of the kids on a local paper, there were block release courses we had to go on in order to qualify. He turned up one day with a brand new Lancia. I said, well, we're only about 18. I said, where do you get that from? He said, great gig. Just do a little piece in your local paper about cars, you get a free car every week. And I just thought, well, I can do that. And here we are.
Do you know what the secret is of Top Gear? Do you know why it's so phenomenally successful?
3 middle-aged men falling over with an occasional car drifting by in the back of shot. Oh, was that a car? Yes, that was a car. But that's really all it is. It's three reasonably intelligent people pretending to be daft. I think that's probably what it is.
See, I think it's a show about what men do in their sheds and what men do in their heads in their sheds.
Girls have said to me, do you really think like that? Do you really think, I wonder if we can put a Reliant Robin into space, or I wonder if we could drive a pickup truck to the North Pole or across the English Channel? And you sit and you go, yeah, pretty much. I don't really think about how to solve the Middle East crisis or whether to buy an extra box of cereal and have we got any loo roll in the downstairs cupboard or anything useful. It's just, I wonder if you could drive across the Andes in a car that's 30 years old.
What do you think is the show's appeal to women? Because, I mean, not only is the show a global phenomenon, you are all superstars. You're a superstar, a sex symbol in some quarters, dare I say. What do you think that's all about?
Well, it really isn't that. I mean, the show's appeal with women, interestingly, I think if you have a son, somebody's son, this is perhaps less so in Australia, I don't know. But if you have the son, so, it's Top Gear's on tonight, I'd like to see that, 'cause it's got fast cars in it, great, that's fantastic. Then father thinks, actually, I don't mind, because all men, I always maintain, are really, doesn't matter how old they are, they're all 8. We're all 8 inside. So I'll watch that as well. And then teenage daughter, whatever, will think, quite fancy Richard Hammond, because he wears nice clothes and he's got big puppy dog eyes. So I'll watch as well. And then mother walks and thinks, God, the whole family is actually doing something together. I don't care what rubbish it is, I'll join in. So you do tend to get a family audience. The notion that I'm a sex symbol is, I'm afraid, laughable, because I'm very fat, going quite bald on the back, hideous skin disease, and as was pointed out the other day, diarrhea. But I haven't got that anymore, so that's one. I'm going better in that way.
You've obviously addressed your diet.
I don't have diarrhea, so that's the only reason I'm a sex symbol, is because I right now don't have diarrhea.
That's fantastic.
Good.
Thanks for the exclusive.
That's all right. No, I'm working well. Everything's working well.
Something you see every day. A gunshot in your rearview mirror.
There is a whole chapter in your Wikipedia entry entitled Offensive Remarks.
My Wikipedia entry should say, gets up, writes stuff, has supper, goes to bed. That's because that's all I ever do. And I bet yours is just as bonkers. But go on, what does it say in offensive
It says,
remarks?
it just says there's a whole chapter about offensive remarks, and you do have a reputation for that. I wonder how much of what you say do you actually mean, and how much is about just stirring the possum?
Well, it's interesting, because you see, it's mostly offensive to one newspaper in the UK, or maybe 2, the 2 I don't write for. And it's not actually, if you look at them, very offensive to anybody, because they're the sort of things you would say to friends at parties and in the pub and what have you. You would talk like that. It's so easy to turn them round and say, oh, I've sparked fury. Well, I've always sparked fury every day. James May sparked fury only this morning by laughing at Toyota prices not being able to stop. But he hasn't really. Everybody's laughing about the Toyota price recall. Everybody's laughing about that. It's so funny that environmentalists are now going, well, I won't stop. And it just shows God doesn't like the Green Party.
But when you go home and the papers are full of you having called the PM a 4-letter word, does the family ever go, Jeremy?
No, my wife pretty much calls the Prime Minister that 4-letter word 30 times a day. Clot is what you're talking about, yeah?
That was the word. It was that 4-letter word that started with
Clot.
C.
Coot. Coot. Gordon Brown is a coot. Look at their faces.
Are they horrified?
James and I made it through the dust with our lives considerably shortened.
I've got consumption and TB. I've got every single 1920s disease.
Do you love it? Do you love all of it?
I love being involved in a programme that's very successful. It's a very nice feeling. It's very nice, for instance, that you bothered to get up this morning to come down and talk to us. I mean, that's a very nice... You think, oh, well, that's people who are interested in my job. Imagine if everybody was as interested in everybody else's job as people are in ours. If you went up to cleaners in hospitals and traffic wardens and then said, oh, God, what a fantastic job you're doing. Aren't you a sex symbol and aren't you marvellous? Everybody would be a lot happier. So it's very nice like that, yeah.
Your mum told a story once about walking a short distance to a restaurant with you in London, I think it was, and you were being hounded by passers-by. Is that sometimes a bit onerous?
Well, you know, yes, but then it's worse when it stops, probably. I mean, it is a pest, because it always happens just as you're telling an anecdote, and you just get to the important bit, someone comes along and goes, I'm awfully sorry, and my son's a big fan. And I haven't told a story for about 3 years now where I've got to the end of it without... But what would you rather, work on a terrible programme that nobody watches?
Although I imagine, unless you look like Helen Mirren, being papped in your swimmers on holidays is probably not that much fun.
I do get papped in my swimmers on holiday, and then environmentalists come and try to push me back in the water again. Oh, God, look, there's a beached one here.
You have 3 kids, and in a few years' time, they'll all be driving. Does that frighten you?
It doesn't frighten me. It fills me with a certain sense of unease. You know, because you do think, oh, God, they're going to crash.
We have had in Australia some horrendous car crashes in recent times. I don't know how much you know about
Yeah,
that,
I've heard
but
that.
involving young drivers,
Yeah.
drink and speed. The latter of those two things are things that you've done on Top Gear a lot. Do you...
What, speed? Speed
Drinking
never
and
killed.
speeding.
Well, speed never killed anyone. It's very important to get that straight. Speed has never killed a soul. Suddenly becoming stationary—that's what gets you.
See, these young people think that they can take us out and drive at these speeds and nothing will happen. And of course, something does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, what do you do about that? What do you do about the copycat element, I suppose?
People were crashing long before Top Gear came along, and in greater numbers, and with bigger consequences.
So what does that mean? I mean, what do we do?
Honestly, nothing. You know, you can fiddle around with the law and say, okay, well, you've got to wear your P plates for a bit longer, or you're not allowed to pass your driving test till you're 24, or you can fiddle about, but it will make, unfortunately, no difference, really, because kids are kids.
It's a pessimistic view, isn't it?
It's a realistic view.
On a brighter note, how much longer do you think Top Gear can go for? Do you worry that you're going to run out of stunts?
No. Yes, possibly. Who knows? I mean, we'll get very old quite soon. We already are quite old, and we'll get very old, and they'll start forgetting things, maybe wetting ourselves. And I think nobody really wants to watch a grown man wetting himself on television. But so we'll bring 3 new people along then, and they'll take it over, I hope. Carry on.
Until then, Jeremy Clarkson seems happy to revel in his rock star lifestyle. This motoring journo with supposedly no ambition has done pretty well for himself.
Let's be honest, it is only a pokey car show on a little-known BBC channel in England.
With a thumping huge budget and a global audience of, what, 300 million or something, isn't it?
Oh, well, so they say. I don't know how they do those figures. The cameraman's now going to walk into the sea. I'm not going to wet myself laughing if that happens.
It's coming! Is it Susan Boyle? Is it Susan Boyle? Oh my God!
Will you ever reveal who the Stig is?
No.
Might the Stig ever be a woman?
Could be, although there is some evidence in those overalls to suggest that he actually is a man. I remember from biology lessons at school, women are shaped a bit differently, and I've looked quite carefully and I can't see any evidence at all of womanhood in there.
You could dress that up, though.
Well, one can in clubs in Saigon, but I'm not sure in racing overalls that you can get away with it, really.
I hope you enjoy your stay. Thank you
God,
very much.
I am doing it. It's fantastic.
When you get over your hangover.
Yeah, no, I've had that for a month.